I understand that designers they want to go international, so they want to attract the rest of the world to their designs and everything. But I think if you look at New York Fashion Week for fall winter, you had a lot of the designers, their inspirations came from Morocco, it came from the Middle East. And I felt like if they're doing that, why are we trying to adapt so much to the rest of the world?
Men here don't look at you differently if you cover up, you know. Women are just a lot more respected, and I like that feeling. I like that feeling of being secured. You know, you can, whether you're wearing an abaya or whether you're wearing this, there's no difference.
No?
But no, for me there's not. I've grown accustomed to the trends that are here, you know. The abayas are becoming a bit more fashionable, they're using colors. And I have my own abayas as well. You know, I get invited to big events and I don't mind wearing the abaya. Of course, I get my hair and makeup done and I don't have to cover the hair. But I do it out of respect and because I actually like it.
I think Saudi women especially, all this Western propaganda that Saudi women, that they want to drive, we really don't care about that. There are so many other things that have to do with civil rights that are more important for us.
Over the 10 years I've spent building my own company and working in the creative industry, there are two things that drive me every day. My inner child, who stays curious, to discover the undiscovered, and the happiness I get from helping others achieve their dreams. Even after a decade, I'm still encouraged to create awareness and work with the new generation of creative artists and entrepreneurs. However, ask a creative student today why they choose this industry and what inspires them, versus a student a decade ago. You may be shocked to hear their reply. So often I feel like today's creative industry has lost its passion for life. I believe that bland celebrity culture is choking young and talented professionals who are dedicated to their craft. Becoming a celebrity or a successful entrepreneur used to be the well-earned result of talent, determination, and hard work, or a magic personality that genuinely touched people's lives and transformed ideas, turning the intangible into tangible. As a celebration of my 10-year anniversary this year, I've established a creative foundation called CAF, a not-for-profit organization with the intention of building creative bridges and generating awareness globally for creative industry throughout diverse cultures. To introduce the foundation, I've created a documentary called New Generation, a series of short documentaries where I will travel to emerging markets worldwide and meet creative artists, entrepreneurs, CEOs, ministers, and royals, with the intent to learn about their culture, find out what inspires them, and get their side of the story. My journey starts in the Middle East. The Middle East is well known for luxury fashion and art, but we rarely hear much about the local designers. I met up with Doha-born Anum Bashir, who's currently working with Sheikha Mayasa Al Thani to change the face of fashion in Qatar.
Well, my name is Anum. I'm 27 years old. I'm a fashion blogger and a fashion curator by trade. I was born in Doha, around the time where there was nothing here. This was all just sea. The skyline, the beautiful skyline behind us just did not exist. I work for Her Excellency Sheikha Mayasa, who's the chairman of Qatar Museums Authority. And she recently appointed me as a fashion curator to just kind of help explore and lay out the foundation to create a fashion industry here, work with emerging designers, create a residency program, fly all over the world to see how different markets have established themselves, you know.
Is there a cross-culture misunderstanding between the West and Middle East?
It totally is. It totally is. I mean, the West knows how affluent this part of the world is. The purchasing power is incredible. Women choose to be veiled, and there's that connotation that a veiled woman is a woman who isn't able to express herself, doesn't have the freedom to do what she wants to do. And that's not true at all. I mean, majority of the designers I've come across, especially in this country, are local women. They're women that are incredibly fashionable, you know, wear the latest trends, and they're actually trying to take their national dress and push the boundaries with it, which I think is such a great idea. You know, obviously it's a cultural restriction that you have to adhere to. It's a cultural sensitivity. Why not take what you have to wear and make it more aesthetically pleasing, make it more fashionable, make it more accessible, you know, to the world? I wear abayas. I'm not even Arab.
When I employ a professional from another country, I consider that person to be a great asset to my company. The knowledge that they bring with them of their culture, language, and experience provide opportunities that locals often don't have. Unfortunately, both the West and the Middle East often look at foreign workers or expats as they often refer to as less worthy. They're actually the opposite. They're culture assets. I met up with Jorel Legaspi from Philippines that lives and works in Qatar to get his point of view.
Having lived here for a very long time, I get a lot of questions from people from outside the region asking me, what does it feel like living here in Qatar? What was it like growing up here? That's actually a very difficult question to answer sometimes, because how else am I going to answer that? I grew up here, so all I could say really is that being in Qatar feels like being in any other place in the world, except that there's just a very different tradition here. There's a very different culture, and you just have to come here with an open mind. There are some misconceptions, definitely, of how things work in the Middle East, how the culture is perceived in different parts of the world, but you will only really truly understand why this region is so special only when you get to live here and get to meet people who are building their own lives here.
The culture difference for women and men in the Middle East versus my home country, Norway, is very different. Saudi Arabia in particular is well known for its regulations and women's rights. During my trip to Bahrain, a country located less than a 45-minute drive from the Saudi border, I met up with entrepreneur and interior designer Sonia Ashur. Her life story and experience is too long for this introduction. Miss Ashur established her own company in Saudi in 2001 and has over the years consulted and designed embassies for the Saudi Arabian government worldwide and contributed to get the Saudi women licensed.
The one thing that has obviously had a huge effect in Saudi Arabia, I mean, and the internet has obviously broadened your mind of that you cannot accept things anymore because you know what the truth is. But one of the things that we have lost, the Arabs are known for their storytelling abilities. Even pre-Islamic, were known for their linguistic, they were known for their language and their command of speech. Our young generation grunts. They can't speak eloquently. They cannot have conversations. They're not storytellers because of all these gadgets. I mean, talk about social network and nobody's social. I don't understand that. Facebook, I have 25,000 friends, that's great. Do you know them? Do you visit with them? Do you have talks with them? No. And in our profession, if it's fashion or architecture or graphics, if you have no historical reference, if you have no art education, how do you want to create? I mean, I always think about this, especially in fashion, and I look at these fashion magazines and see this poor commercial work now, and I think the person who designed that has absolutely no art education whatsoever. I mean, there's no reference to history, there's no reference maybe to a painting or the work of Liechtenstein or anything, you know. I think the West, even with all the terrorism that happened, are curious about this religion. They're curious, even if they know nothing about it, but they still, even the Americans who are afraid of terrorism, but they will go to a trip to Istanbul and they will buy the tickets and they go to Hagia Sophia and they take photos and stand in front of Sultan Ahmed. But because that's not scary. That's knowledge, that's beauty, that's art, and it's a universal language.
Being artists or designers in a region like the Middle East, you'd think that it has limitations. To get a better understanding, I met up with Bahrain fashion consultant Shouk Al-Shawi and Qatari-based fashion designer Lama El Moatasem from Palestine to get their view.
I think that I don't imagine that. I have not seen that at all.
I think everyone's expressive. Maybe people might create things that are a bit more conservative, but then they'll do that because their market is, not generally because they have a fear of, I don't think we're regulated in any sense or we're stopped from, so it's more of who your market is.
Being here, I don't see it as a restriction. I see it as a sign of respect. Fashion is gearing that way. It is, especially at the moment, you see conservative dress is appealing. Like the trends are towards more conservative fashion. It's no longer, you know, seductive or, you know, super in trend to wear that, you know, little miniskirt or the low v-necks, or, you know, having garments that are very revealing. It's much more demure. It's much more sophisticated in a way, which appeals to our region, and still, you know, remains to be fashionable. So in that respect, no, because my own aesthetic is not overly exposing a woman's body. I think it's more about actually finding different ways of creating that, you know, appeal.
Will you communicate by more or small or small? How will you speak to that? What does the fox say? Go break that they touch it out. Touch it out, touch it out. Touch it out. What the fox say? What the fox say? Oh yeah. What the fox say?